Hi, it's Lil from Made by Marley. Have you ever wanted to make your own nutcracker? I made this nutcracker out of an old lampshade and some cereal boxes. So this today's video is if Made by Marley made nutcrackers. It's not my usual type of video because it took 7 hours for me to make this, and there was a whole load of me doing the mental gymnastics. So what we've done is we've put it all together in footage. I've done a voiceover, and you'll see it all happening as we go along.
Okay, so this is me just basically getting everything together. I'm just having a good old look at what I've got to make it. I'm definitely going to use the lampshade. So the lampshade had a sort of velour coating on it that I couldn't get off. So I decided to cut it up and cover it in cardboard. So what I'm doing here is I'm cutting little fringes in the top of the cardboard just so that I can bend it over the circle at the top of the lampshade. You'll see throughout this project I'm using an awful lot of hot glue. Hot glue is going to keep it all stable and together. Just make sure you hold it down for a couple of minutes. I'm just adding more hot glue, making sure that the card is all the way around the lampshade. It's just going to give us a really nice surface to paint onto. All through this as well, you'll see that I use picture framing tape. It's to reinforce everything, and there's so many parts where you can see me, even though they've been hot glued, I'm just going over it to reinforce it and also make it a nicer surface to paint on. So I'm making sure that there's no bumps in the paper tape, and I'm folding it over the edge of the top of the lampshade. It's just, at this point in time, you're really trying to get as secure a surface and as nice a surface to paint on. Okay, you can see a whole load of mental gymnastics because that's what this kind of project is. I'm just trying to work it out as I go along, and hence the reason why it was filmed the way it was. I'm folding down all my little fringes at the top of the lampshade because that's the part that's going to glue on top of the box. Now at this point in time, I will say try and get it as straight onto your nutcracker as you possibly can. Mine's could have been doing with being a wee bit straighter. Now what I'm doing is I'm making sure that it's all secured, and again I'm going in with the paper tape. So I'll fast forward this part while I get this all taped down. I think it really helped me laying it all out onto a table. Now, the legs were the insides of cling wrap, and I sandwiched them with hot glue and then kind of folded my paper tape so it went down into the grooves of the two tubes and made sure that they were nice and secure and solid. I'm sanding some old recyclable Christmas baubles so that they're smooth enough for painting, and I'm gluing them on the top and on the bottom of the tubes because these are going to be his arms. So the top balls are going to be the shoulders and the bottom balls are going to be his hands. You can see I'm just cleaning up the boxes, making sure there's no labels or anything that's going to make sure that your decoupage paper doesn't sit nice. Plenty of hot glue, and again I'm using the paper tape method where I'm folding it and I'm putting it up into all the joins. And you'll see me go on and do the other arm in a minute. I'm just using a craft knife, and what I'm doing is I'm just making sure that there's no loose bits of tape. They'll make bumps in the decoupage paper, and I'm smoothing it all down, making sure that there's nothing. If you think you need to reinforce the edges of your boxes to make them a bit more substantial, do that, and make sure you cut out all the excess round about the baubles just to tidy. It needs to be as tidy as you possibly can. I'm just checking it over and I'm reinforcing it underneath, making sure that it's going to be solid. You want this to last. You don't want it flimsy. So it's worth doing these parts because it'll end up looking a more substantial nutcracker at the end of the day. Now, this is a little bit tricky. I wanted to make a sort of V shape in this box to make it look like he had two separate shoes. So again, this is just all sort of kind of working it out. How did I do it? I just cut a kind of V slit in the box and then folded, kind of lightly scored the edges to make like a dart shape so that it was a triangle. And that's me showing you at the camera. I'm obviously quite pleased with that. Pleased with myself there. Yeah, it is. There's a few bits you have to work out, but that's what creativity is. It is about problem solving, and it is about using, you know, what you've got to try and make it work. So all I'm doing now is making a template shape that'll fit into that gap. And this takes me a couple of minutes. Hence the reason why the video is fast forwarded all the way through, because it took me 7 hours in total to get this to, and you can see I'm trying lots of different boxes because I'm needing more cardboard and I'd already taped that one up, so I need to pinch some from there. But the feet is up to you. If you can find 2 boxes for each one of your tubes, that might be easier. But I didn't have that. That's me. I'm sandwiching 2 blocks of wood into the bottom of the shoes because I want the feet to be weighted so that it holds the whole nutcracker, and he's firm and stands heavy when you stand him up, and he's not light and flimsy and can be knocked down. I'm taping in the wood. And what I'm doing here is what I've been telling you, is I'm now going to reinforce the whole of this box before I glue on the feet. Okay, what I did was I turned him upside down, draw a template of the top of his hat, and I'm now cutting out a circle slightly bigger than my lampshade because I now am scoring lightly the circle, just scoring it, not so you're cutting it, just scoring it into a circle, and then I'm doing those little jaggy cuts again so that I can fold this over the top of the lampshade and glue it on. How I'm going to cover the logistics at this point of that rim at the top of his head, I don't know, but we'll get to that. I might just make them a feature and cover them in decoupage later on, but that's the little folds all done. And I'm just going to dry fit it, see that it works. It does. Put plenty of glue on, and that's the top of his head done. Now his head and his hat is all one piece, so when you're picking a head, make sure it's long enough to be able to have a hat and a face all in one. That's one thing I will say, unless you're doing a hat separate. I mean, that's different. Now I want to make a brim for his hat, and where I'd cut the circle out for the top, I used that as a template because it's the correct circumference, sorry, still can't talk right. And now what you can't tell what I'm doing because I'm actually having a wee chat to Martin here, but what I'm doing is trying to, obviously I'm working things out, drawing a line, cutting a brim, dry fitting it a few times to make sure that that's going to do the job. Plenty of hot glue, and you'll see me again probably reinforce it with the paper tape because, yeah, I do reinforce it with the paper tape. I do it with absolutely everything. It's just to make sure that everything's secure. Okay, I'm moving on to the top of his helmet, and I've got the empty inside cardboard of a tape reel, and I'm just gluing that on. And the same deal for doing the top. I just used another tape reel to do it because I knew it was going to be slightly bigger as well, which meant that I was able to do my little cuts all the way around. That's me just changing the chapter in my audiobook. And again, going through the same process, and it's just about building, scoring the circle and then folding the little parts so that it gives us a really nice edge and a nice finish for our piece. Now at this point in time, I want this one to fit in, not over, so I fit it into the cardboard at the top. Again, reinforcing it with paper tape, making sure that it's all nice, cutting it again with the little slits, folding them over at the top. We're nearly at the whole build is complete now, really. We're going to get on to all the decorating of them, but this part is the most important part, and I would say that this was the longest part of the day. I think to get to this stage took me about 3 hours. Okay, so we're on to the fun parts now. I've got some Capri Pink, some Old Ochre and some Tilton, which is a yellow, to make a skin colour. And I'm going to paint his little hands, the baubles at the bottom. I'm going to paint those the pinky peach, and I'm going to do the same with his face. Now his face has multiple coats throughout this because it needs that, because each time it dries you see little parts that you want to do. So at this point in time I do put some pink on for his cheeks, but I wasn't really thinking. Now you can see there's a ridge in the face. Can you see that on camera there? I fixed that later on with a bit of paper clay. I didn't like it. It was where I obviously didn't think about, and this is something you should, about where the actual face is going to be. I was just so giddy with what I did that I didn't really think about that. So that's me painting all the way around, and later on I do go and paint the back, but I don't paint the back at the moment because I want to know how far his face is going to, his hat's going to come down. So painting that, that's that. Okay, so what I'm doing here is I am now beginning to cover the Nutcracker in decoupage paper. This is made by Marley Decoupage People and it's called Boho Tile. And what I'm doing is I'm basically just cutting it out in sort of tile format so that I can sort of measure it and make it look good. Plenty of Mod Podge at this point, but not too much that it ends up giving you wrinkles, but you know, a good coating. And really the majority of the next little part of footage is all me covering it up. I cover most of it in the boho tile, and then I come back and I use edgy floral to do some details, but we'll fast forward till we get to the details. Okay, so I'm now putting cut up parts of Edgy Floral on the sleeves and round the bottom of his tunic, just to kind of differentiate from the paper and make it look a little bit fancy. The part you saw me doing beforehand was the part where I had some leftover molds, some redesigned by Prima molds that I'd cast, and I just hit them up with my heat gun and cut them with scissors to kind of fit, and later on they played quite a large part, but at that point in time I was still trying to work out what was going to happen next. So I'm just going to get on, and you can see me gluing and sticking basically all this part, just gluing on the little parts to make it fancy. Okay, so now I've got some Florence paint, Amsterdam green, and a little bit of old ochre, and I'm painting the shoes green. I also paint his hat green too. I've decoupaged the back of him so that if he's ever turned round he looks nicer on the back, but the front, the shoes are green, and I used the Edgy Floral paper on the back. So 2 coats of this green mix, and you'll see me move on to do the hat in a minute. so I've got the Das clay here because remember I said earlier he needed a little bit of filling on the side of his face, and I'm just smoothing it out with a clay tool over the top of the cardboard with a little bit of glue. He just needs a slight bit of fillers and a little bit of reconstructive surgery. He's good now. Now I'm just having a look at those pieces of moulding that I had earlier on, because I'm just trying to work out, that's me just putting a wee bit more glue over the top of that and giving him a paint job just to get rid of that. It really wasn't pleasing me, and I don't know how many times those cheeks have been painted in. That's at least the 4th time, but that's him fixed now. What I'm doing here is I'm just fiddling around with ribbon because I'm just trying to work out, after I've put the moulds on, what sort of colours I have. That's Liquitex sealer, and I'm just getting a little container and I'm adding gold mica to it, quite a bit, and using the Liquitex medium, pouring it in and making my old gold paint to paint my moulds. I also had some wooden sort of star shapes that had been cut out of some furniture at some point, and I'd kept hold of them, quelle surprise, and I thought they would look really good on the Nutcracker, so I'm just painting those as well while I'm having a wee convo with Martin at the same time. I also bent a piece of that mould, and I had one piece left, and I bent it to go around the front of his hat. You can kind of see it in the position and layout there of where everything's going to go. So I start with gluing down the sides of the trousers, and then I make a sort of square with moulders at the top. And at this point in time, I'm using the same gold mica to paint the baubles in gold. I give them 2 coats of gold just to make them extra shiny. You can see me coming back and doing that again in a minute. And really what I'm doing now is I've got gold on my brush, and what I'm doing is I'm rubbing it down all of the edges and round his sleeves and up round his hat and down round all the edges, just to kind of give them a little bit of an aged look. It goes with the sort of Bohemian tile paper, and I thought I had looked at loads of videos of nutcrackers, people making nutcrackers, but I knew what I wanted and I couldn't find what I wanted, and I thought I want mine to be a little bit different, so different it certainly is. So this is me now looking at the ribbon that I that lace that I had, and I'm just gluing bits of ribbon and lace onto them. It was just plain white ribbon, and I dyed it with Annie Sloan paint a wee while ago, and I never got round to using it. And I've got some gold rickrack that I'm putting around the back of his head, back of his hat, sorry, just to finish that off. And got some blue velvet to go around his hands as his kind of cuffs. And I glue some sort of floral sort of embroidered ribbon down his sides of his arms and around his neck. So that's me giving it the second coat of gold. And here you can see me, I've got a white chalk pencil. I would recommend you do this when it's standing up, just so that you know that it's the right, you want the eyes and the nose all to be sort of relatively the same, and I think if you do it lying down it won't look so good. I got some fur fabric and I'm just gluing it all the way around the back where the hat meets the sort of skin to give him some hair. I'm gluing it on and I'm just puffing it out and making him look kind of puffy. Now the next bit of footage isn't fabulous, but I lay him down and once I've stuck his beard on, because I do his eyes, but I do his eyes with Poscas. So just so you're aware what's happening here, I'm gluing on his beard and he all looks good. And I've got some fur that I'm going to be, he does have a kind of moustache on the top of his beard. And I end up at one point putting hair in to cover the tape up in the brim of the hat. That was a holly mould I had that I end up colouring in with Poscas, and it goes on to the middle star. So this is the part where I'm kind of working on the eyes, but it's not, or maybe I'm not, maybe I'm just wandering aimlessly around the studio and trying to work out, no, I am going to be doing Poscas. So I go in with a fine line drawing pen first to cover up where, to go where my white pencil had been, my chalk pencil just now, because I know that that's what I want. So I'm just going over it with a fine pen. just not too heavy at first. I end up going back over it in Poscas and making them. And then you can see there I've painted his retinas blue, and I'm doing these eyeballs white, and I go in and I do a black for a pupil, and I do some highlights with white on the blue. But you'll see when I stand them all back up, it just wasn't a great camera angle. It caught so many good parts, and Martin did adjust the cameras and we went, but this was kind of tricksy to get this part. I needed them to be lying flat. At this point in time, I'm kind of obsessed by the hair and I keep fluffing it up. That's me going in. That's me doing the pupil and the eyes. Now, I did look at Nutcracker's faces. I didn't want mine to look too scary or too grumpy. I had a particular Nutcracker face in mind and I couldn't find one that I liked, so I just did my own. But you can just model yours off of all the Nutcrackers that are out there. At this point in time, I'm going to put some fur around the sleeves because I feel like he hasn't got enough going on. Oh no, I'm doing the hair first. I do come back and do his sleeves. I did a little tiny red circle in amongst all that hair for his mouth, but I do go back and put a little red bead in it because I didn't think his mouth. That's him getting some eyelashes and some highlights in his eyes. And I've just thickened up. He's given me a wee bit more of a guy liner. I thought that's him getting his nose. And that's his fur going round his sleeves now. And you can put fur around the bottom of the jacket as well if you want. I've seen people do that, but I had a very particular idea in my head, and I think after when mine was finished, no wonder I couldn't find it because mine is quite specific. So I'm just doing all the sort of fiddly details now. I'm making sure that's a silver pen. I was just kind of highlighting round his thick sort of eyeliner just to give him a little bit of a lift. And I think that's it. Oh, this is the star from last week's Christmas video, the half-finished star. I thought, how can I utilise this on him? So I gave him a great big flourish sticking out the top of his head. And I think I was really happy that I did that. And then I added a star as well. So here's it all going on. Just adjusting his beard and just fiddling about. These are the last few things that really I'm doing now. I mean, it was a long time I'd been in the stable, and I think I'd got to the point where I thought that was coming up to enough is enough. I think, oh no, no, obviously I can embellish it more. I've got some more gold brick rat and I'm putting it round the top of his hat because I thought that would made him look like more like a sort of Nutcracker soldier. And you can see that in the piece of moulding that I put in the front and his flourish and his hat and everything. I'm obviously putting a little bit, anywhere I've kind of put ribbon and things, I'm obviously trying to cover joins. Joins and transitions are key. Now I'm just deciding that I want to embellish more and more and more because I can't stop myself. Now I've got some glass beads and I'm putting at the end of the rickrack to finish off that. So it just doesn't finish nowhere. It has to have a sort of something on top of it, I always think. So, and I'm just putting that at the bottom of his jacket as well. And this is me now. This is me doing the red bead. I've got a bead in my hand and I've put a little bit of glue in it. Oh no, I'm not. I tell a lie. I'm tying a ribbon and I'm putting a bow on it as well. I'm not very good at voiceovers. I can never tell what I'm about to do next, but I mean, who knows what I'm going to do next? It's bad enough in real life. I'm just filling in, I'm just whitening up his eyes again, and that's that little bead going in his mouth now. That is definitely it. And now I'm just looking at things where I can embellish more, but pretty much that's him done now. There isn't, you're not going to see any more that you haven't already seen. It was really enjoyable. It was a fabulous project to embark on, and I really did have fun making this.
So, finished. This wasn't difficult at all, although it took a long time. That's just the bit in the beginning. Once you've got all your pieces for the structural element and you've got it all glued together, then it's just all the fun part. It's all the designy parts. I looked at lots of videos on nutcrackers, and every one was not what I was looking for. I think using
wasn't made by Marley enough.
I
Wasn't bougie enough.
No, I wanted something quite bougie and bohemian. So I thought, right, what can I do? I thought, right, I'm going to use my own decoupage paper, and
You thought you'd make this handsome gentleman.
yeah, but apart from that, it wasn't really that difficult to do. In fact, I would have assumed it would be much harder. Is there any pitfalls in this? No, just use plenty of hot glue. I mean, goodness knows how many. I think I must have used about 6 or 7 glue sticks to make this. It's all made of waste products. I mean, it's apart from my decoupage paper, but I mean, the tubes were just the inside of cling film. The hands and the shoulders are old Christmas baubles. These are toilet kitchen roll tubes. This was an Amazon box. The head and hat was a lampshade. This is just cardboard, but everything has to be reinforced. So remember, you don't want it flimsy. You saw me putting wood in the feet. I've put the wood in the feet to help him stand really well. The trickiest bit of this whole part was me trying to get that little V in the feet to make him look like he had 2 feet. That was it. But as I said in the video, you can just get 2 separate boxes. This was leftover molds that I'd cast for a project I didn't use. These were remnants of the piece, because I obviously used the piece of wood with the cutouts, and this is what was left over. So I've just kept them, painted those. That's it. I mean, this was the star from last week that I was going to finish, but I realised that it was all the same paper, and I thought, oh, I had one of those really busy moments where I was like,
oh, that's where it's got to go.
There's actually a piece of the footage where I'm talking to myself, I'd be smiling and making myself laugh all at once because I know Martin wasn't there. So I was just obviously, and a bit when I'm smiling at him, I'm like, So I didn't make him have a harsh face. Mine's has got quite nice big blue eyes. I went on a Nutcracker themed face, but I didn't want him to look grumpy. So this is how he ends up looking. And I think he looks like, he looks quite 70s.
I think
because he's here.
I think he's absolutely awesome.
Martin came into the stable, in the studio, and he was like, wow.
It was, yeah. I think he really is absolutely awesome. I love him.
So I hope that you can go ahead and make one. You can see from the video, I mean, even though it's not me doing my usual step-by-step, I'm telling you in the video exactly what I did. And, you know, have a go at it. It was actually incredibly easy at the end of the day.
I think you had fun making it.
Oh, I did. I couldn't stop. I mean, I would probably have done this in 2 halves any other day, but I was so invested in them that I thought I'm just going to keep going. So anyway, this has been another Christmassy edition of the Made by Marley stuff. So I promise it will be back to furniture next week. There's no more that I can drag out here on Christmas. Maybe do some Christmas gifts, kind of a little bit closer to Christmas, make your own Christmas gifts. But apart from that, I think you've had your fill from me. Although somebody said last week after the Christmas stuff, oh, but you didn't make your baubles. I was like, oh. I went, oh, I'll see what I can do. But I was thinking, I'm not making baubles. If you want to see baubles, I made baubles last year, and I'll get Martin to put the link above here. Is it here, Martin, or down here? I'm not
there.
Up there. I'll get Martin to put the link to a Christmas bauble making video tutorial from last year. Right then. Okay, so if you've enjoyed this video, give us a like, give us a share, give us a thumbs up. Sharing our content really helps our channel. It really does help us. And obviously subscribing. We've hit our 10K now, and that's just amazing. And we'd really like to thank you so very, very much for that. Right, that's it. I'm going to go. Martin, do you have anything more to add to this?
No, just to say, he is truly awesome. He is, isn't he?
He is.
We look at him.
He's cute. Poppy was like, wow, Nana. I said, I made him, and she went, Nana.
My favourite bit is his glorious headdress, you know. He looks like
he looks like a Raj.
You're fabulous.
Okay, take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.